Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bahama Steve, father to Jessica and her sister Julie. Sailor extraordinaire, Renaissance man, some would even say he's a dreamer. He bought a boat, a second boat, one on the other coast. He now has a boat on the west coast and on the east coast. He is living the dream. Here's his story. And go.
Back in the day when I lived in Denver, my friends asked me to go to the Virgin Islands to share the cost of a charter boat, bareboat charter, and I knew nothing about sailing. Never been on a sailboat in my life, but we went on the trip to the Virgin Islands, Kay and I, and after about 1 week I said, we are moving somewhere to live on a boat. This is the life for Riley. Anyway, shortly after, the next year we went to St. Martin with the same group of people. And that was a little bit different trip, but it was still on my mind. We had to get somewhere to live aboard. And I happened to be in a business that would work in just about any city in the United States. So I met some people. Anyway, just serendipitously, a guy offered me a job in Seattle. And I said, we're going.
We, you mean?
The fam.
The whole family, yeah.
And my wife agreed.
And how old were the girls at that point?
They were, I think, 5 and 8.
Julie, you concur?
Perfect. At that point. And I went up to Seattle ahead of them and started looking for a boat. And before you know it, what I did first was rented an apartment and then started looking for a boat. And then within 6 months, I found the Tiana 37.
Good choice.
And made the offer, met the banker. It was all rigged, but they got me in the boat. And Kay and the girls moved up here. We liquidated our furniture and moved on the boat.
The rest is history.
That's how we got there.
Nice. And what boats have you had since then?
So we lived on the Tiana for 8 years. Well, I had it 8 years. We lived aboard about probably 6. And then bought a house in the meanwhile. We lived in the house one winter. Next summer we decided we wanted to be on the boat, so we rented the house. And a year later, the renters left and we went back into the house. The kids were getting into middle school. Jessica was almost in high school. And they had a little trouble living aboard a 37-foot sailboat.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, about that time, my wife, she was working for the port and decided she didn't like boating anymore. And so we parted ways around 1996. And I got the boat and she got the house. And then I met another girl who wanted a powerboat.
Oh, the dark arts.
And so I sold Sundance, the Tiana 37. I bought a Nova 36, tri-cabin cruiser. And then, that didn't last too long. I traded that Nova 36 2 years later for the Valiant 40 Escapade, which I had been waiting to get my hands on for about 3 years. couple that had it divorced, and took them 2 years to sell it, and I was waiting in line first. And then I had that boat for 19 years.
Oh, goodness.
And meanwhile, married another gal. We started looking at pilot houses. I wanted a bigger boat with a walk-around queen. But the one I was trying to buy wound up being in Florida, and it was sold out from under me before I was lined up enough to buy it. So we kept looking at pilot houses and found one up in Canada. And it was 37-foot northwest. Built by Cooper, and a pilot house, inside steering, and decided I would sell the Valiant, and we bought that boat. So how many am I up to? You want to count the
That's 4.
crab boat?
That's no, anything over 30 feet, I think. And you still have that 37-foot boat.
Still have the 37. I always kept looking at Valiants on Yacht World because I'm always interested in what they're going for and where they're at, that kind of thing. And happened to see one in Seattle, 1982, that needed a lot of work. It was a total project. And I kept my eye on it, seeing the price go down. Really wasn't worth what the guy wanted. And one day I saw this other 1982 Valiant located in Marathon, Florida. The boat we're standing on right now. And it was, I always had a dream of sailing my Valiant in the Caribbean, and this one here is right next to the Caribbean.
Stone's throw.
So I thought, you know what? Here's my chance. And I'm running out of time. We all are. So I bought the Valiant 40. Foggy in Marathon, Florida. And we just sailed it for 3 or 4 times this week, and kind of shook out some of the things we didn't know we had and corrected some things we knew we had, and seems like it has everything I need to go offshore.
It sure does. 5 anchors is as much.
5 anchors. 1 used one. 1 new one in the locker.
Yeah.
We didn't know we had. It's packed with cruising gear. So the plan is to mosey south from here.
Cool. Well, that's good stuff. Thank you for the information. I love it. If somebody was just starting out and they wanted to get into cruising, what would you suggest their path be? What's the? I mean, you took a long route to get there, but
well, assuming you've learned to sail,
that's a big one.
You know, it starts with understanding how to sail, but you know, my first boat actually was a 21-foot Clipper Marine on a trailer, and I sailed it in the Great Salt Lake in Utah for a couple of years. Well, I had that boat about 1.5 years, and I towed it up to Seattle and sold it up there when I was looking for that Tiana 37. But I recommend, you know, getting an intermediate sized boat that you can trailer around and experiment and learn how to sail it, and everybody gets the fever after a while for a bigger boat. So if you're into cruising, you're gonna need to be on a coast, and there are literally thousands of boats for sale of all descriptions. And I hate to suggest it, but go on Yacht World and start looking at them.
It's a dangerous place. Well, that's great.
It'll hook you.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Thank you.
So this is the beginning of Bahama Steve's adventures on Foggy, a Valiant 40, in Marathon, Florida, headed to parts unknown south of the United States. Thanks for watching.